Welcome back to the Deep Dive. We've got a fantastic set of sources today. Research papers, founder interviews, even some elite investor memos. And they all seem to be aimed at answering one big question. How do you actually build a business that works, from scratch?
And that's the question that stops so many people, right? They get stuck before they even start.
Yeah.
There's this myth that you need some brilliant, totally unique idea that just, poof, appears in a flash of lightning. This whole deep dive is really about dispelling that myth.
Absolutely. So our mission here is to unpack the proven, structured frameworks, the ones that top founders and top-tier investors actually use. We're going to show you that building a successful company really boils down to mastering three pillars. First, generating the idea. Second, rigorously stress testing it. And finally, securing the capital to scale.
And for anyone listening who thinks their idea is, too small or too simple, just remember that some of the biggest businesses in the world were born from a mild inconvenience. The sources are really clear on this. Great ideas usually come from a process. It's observation, it's collaboration, it's structured brainstorming. It's not about solo genius.
Okay, so let's unpack that. Let's start with what we're calling the mechanics toolkit. These are proven strategies for generating ideas. We're not waiting for inspiration. We are, in a sense, manufacturing opportunities.
Exactly. Waiting for inspiration is a luxury, and it's one that very few successful founders ever indulged in. So we start by looking inward.
And this first strategy is deeply personal, but it's also profoundly scalable. Solve your own problem. The sources suggest a pretty simple technique here, the 21-day log.
Right.
For 3 weeks, you just keep a notebook, a diary of every single frustration, every pain point, any friction you encounter at home or at work.
The power of that, the 21-day log, is that it forces you to capture the daily friction that your brain just normally filters it out. Or you come up with some temporary workaround and forget about it. With this, you log the annoyance, even if it seems totally trivial.
But 3 weeks of writing down every tiny annoyance, that sounds a little exhausting, maybe almost neurotic. How does that translate into a huge business?
Well, because it creates a raw database of genuine, unmet needs. The classic example is DoorDash. The founders didn't start with some grand vision for a global logistics empire. They noticed a simple problem. They wanted Thai food, but the local suburban restaurants didn't deliver. That's it.
So the log would have just captured that one friction point, and that personal annoyance becomes a commercial problem just waiting for a solution.
Exactly, an app to facilitate that very specific delivery need.
Okay, so moving from necessity to something bigger. The next framework forces us to think bigger. It's called the 10x rule. This isn't about making an existing business, say, 5 or 10% better. It's about making it dramatically better, 10 times better, faster, cheaper.
And there's a specific reason for that number, for 10x. It's rooted in behavioral economics. Customers are just naturally resistant to change. The cost of switching, the time it takes, the perceived risk, it's all pretty high.
So a small improvement isn't enough to get someone to switch.
Right, a 5% improvement isn't enough to overcome that inertia, but a 10x improvement, that makes the decision to switch almost mandatory. It's a no-brainer.
That completely reframes it. It's not a numerical target, it's a psychological hurdle you have to clear. Think about Amazon's beginning. As an online bookshop, its 10x value was accessibility. They offered a vastly greater range of books than any physical store could ever hold. Why would you waste hours going from store to store when a simple search brings everything to you? That was easily 10 times the selection and convenience.
So, if solving your own problems or 10xing an existing one doesn't spark an idea, there's a third strategy. Think globally, act locally. If an idea is already proven and thriving in another market, say overseas, and that market has a similar consumer base, there's a huge opportunity to bring that model home and adapt it.
And the sources gave a great case study for this, Afterpay. They basically dominate the buy now, pay later space in their region. But their success was directly inspired by a firm, which had already pioneered the model 2 years earlier in San Francisco.
Right, so you're leveraging a validated global concept. But it's not just a copy-paste job, you have to adapt it. You have to navigate local regulations, banking culture. It's copy and optimize.
Okay, which brings us to a more analytical approach. Strategy 4, disrupting broken industries. This is about scanning the horizon for these massive incumbent industries, ones with monopolies, or just terrible customer reputations, or the ones that haven't innovated in decades.
Yeah, you're looking for dinosaurs?
It sounds good in theory, but how do you tell the difference between an industry that's just slow and one that's genuinely broken and ready to be disrupted? Isn't it incredibly risky to take on a giant?
It is high risk, absolutely. But the telltale sign of a broken industry is, well, it's widespread customer dissatisfaction combined with high switching costs, or regulatory hurdles that the incumbent uses as a shield. Stripe is the perfect example. Online payment processing used to be so painful for small businesses. Stripe just bypassed the legacy banks entirely. They offered easy, developer-friendly credit card transactions. They just removed the friction that the big players were happy to keep in place.
And we see that same pattern again and again. In transportation, in accommodation. Uber took on the taxi industry's awful apps and, frankly, poor service. Airbnb tackled the uniformity and high cost of hotels. They both just lowered the barrier to entry for the consumer.
And beyond just looking at markets, we can't ignore the power of your own expertise. Strategy 5 is all about leveraging your background, your strengths. Passion is good, but applied expertise is better. The founder of Poshroom, for instance, used her veterinary background. She saw pet owners struggling to find genuinely high-quality products. That specific knowledge gave her immediate credibility and a market advantage.
So if those first 5 strategies seem a little too daunting, strategy 6 is a good reminder that, iteration can be innovation. You don't always have to invent a whole new category. Sometimes just replacing one core component is enough.
Yes, absolutely. And the Tesla car is a perfect illustration. It looks like a car, it feels like a car, it drives like a car. They didn't reinvent the steering wheel or the tires, but they successfully replaced one core component, the combustion engine, with a new, superior electric fuel source. And by iterating on just the power source but keeping the user experience familiar, they dramatically lowered the learning curve for mass adoption.
That is a phenomenal toolkit for just generating ideas. But let's shift gears, because having an idea is just step 1. Part 2 is all about stress testing the concept. It's not enough to have a disruptive idea. You have to validate it. You have to use market analysis to reduce risk and prove it can work.
To do that systematically, you need to follow what we'll call the 5 strategic steps of market analysis. Steps 1 and 2, they really require some intellectual rigor. First, you have to define clear objectives. If you're not using SMART goal-specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-bound, you can't really assess your analysis. Second, you have to research external factors. This is all about monitoring the macro environment.
Okay, and this connects directly to the massive importance of trend analysis. Yeah, we're going to look at the data, not just for today, but where the currents are taking the entire market.
Absolutely. We need to dissect trends that signal new opportunities. And the sources highlighted some really interesting data points. Take consumer trends. There's a clear gender divide in financial confidence right now. 63% of women are spending cautiously compared to men. For a business, that's not just a marketing stat. It suggests products aimed at women need to prioritize reliability, trust, and proven value over, say, novelty or speculative features.
That level of detail literally changes how you would design a product. What about tech shifts?
Technological trends.
Oh.
They're moving incredibly fast. The huge shift noted in the material is that 47% of consumers are likely to use generative AI tools to research purchases. This means your old SEO and ad spending strategies. They're just not enough anymore. Brands now have to ensure they're visible and credible inside these AI-driven conversations. The gatekeepers are changing.
And what about those slow-moving but inevitable forces like demographics?
Look at demographic trends. The U.S. population is aging and fast. 1 in 5 people are expected to be over 65 soon. This is a massive underserved opportunity. And it's not just about creating medical devices, it's about designing accessible, desirable products. Brands like Apple and Dyson have nailed this. They focus on intuitive design that appeals across all age groups, so they're not just making products labeled for the elderly.
So to structure all of that external data, we can lean on some classic analytical frameworks. Let's talk about the strategic trifecta, PEST and SWOT. I see PEST as that crucial first step. You have to check the macro environment before you commit any real resources.
Precisely. PEST analysis, that's political, economic, social, and technological. It's essential for understanding if the wind is at your back or in your face. We mentioned Tesla earlier. Their success wasn't just technical, it was accelerated by favorable government regulations and tax credits, which is the P, rising environmental consciousness, S, and advancements in battery tech, the T. Those forces didn't just help them, they enabled their market entry.
And once we have a handle on the macro environment, we can zoom in with SWOT analysis to deconstruct our competitors. This is where you're actively hunting for opportunity by looking at other companies' weaknesses.
It's pure competitive intelligence. And a very practical tip from the material was to look up the most popular, highly downloaded apps in your space that have poor star ratings.
Oh, okay.
Then read the one-star comments. Look for the common threads. Those threads are the market-specific, articulated pain points. Those are the gaps your business should be rushing to fill.
And finally, you can't ignore the direct signals from the customers themselves. You mentioned something about finding customer workarounds.
Yes. If you see customers gathering on, say, specialized subreddits or LinkedIn groups, and you see them hacking a product, using it in a way it was never designed for,
Yeah.
that is a screaming signal for a missing product opportunity. They are literally building a bridge because the road is incomplete.
We see this play out in real time with consumer brands. The example cited was Pringles. They leveraged that viral pickle challenge on TikTok to launch a limited edition spicy pickle flavor. They spotted where the audience was, and they turned the behavior into a product feature.
And while that's a brilliant example, it also highlights the risk of trend analysis. Speed is everything. To execute on a trend like that, you need a really flexible supply chain and brand agility. It's a high-risk, high-reward approach, but it's essential if you're in a direct-to-consumer space.
Okay, so we found the idea, we've validated the market. Now for the final hurdle, part 3, the investor's eye. When you move to securing capital, you have to stop thinking like a founder and start thinking like the VC or angel investor who's hunting for a unicorn.
And that transition requires a fundamental psychological shift. You really have to adopt a kind of emotional detachment. The core insight investors quote is that the best opportunities arise from observing human behavior, from capitalizing when others are frozen by fear or excited by greed. You're looking for value where other people are failing to see it because of their own emotional biases.
So if we put on that elite angel mindset, what are the key filters they're using beyond just the immediate financials to spot those billion-dollar startups?
The first, and honestly the single most important ingredient, is the founder factor. Investors often say they bet on the jockey, not just the horse. They're looking for this unusual combination of vision, the ability to articulate a world that doesn't exist yet, and execution ability, the practical skills to actually build it. But maybe most importantly, they're looking for unreasonable persistence.
Unreasonable persistence. That sounds like a polite way of saying a willingness to fail hundreds of times.
It is. Startup life is a grind. It's full of boring, repetitive tasks and constant rejection. Investors know the idea will probably have to pivot, but the founder must have that irrational drive to survive the inevitable long, dry periods. They also look for magnetic leadership. That's the founder's ability to attract world-class talent and inspire a team, even when they have basically no resources.
And the second major filter isn't about the product, but its context in time.
That's right. Timing is key. An analysis by Bill Gross found that timing accounts for 42% of the difference between success and failure. You can have the right idea, but is it too early? Investors ask 2 key questions. Are users psychologically ready for this? That's behavioral readiness. And what recent tech breakthroughs make this possible now? The enabling technologies. If your user base doesn't even know they have the problem yet, or the tech is still too expensive, the timing is just wrong.
This brings up the whole concept of the moat mindset. Investors aren't just looking for a profitable business today. They want a durable competitive advantage that protects future profits. What actually defines a durable advantage?
It's anything that makes it fundamentally expensive or difficult for a competitor to replicate your success. The sources identify 3 key moats. First is brand power, often built around an ecosystem like Apple. Customers pay a premium not just for the device, but for the simplicity of that whole ecosystem. It allows them to price out competitors.
And the second one protects businesses that are essential, but maybe not so glamorous.
That would be switching costs. Think about complex data providers like Moody's credit ratings. Companies stick with them not because they're cheap, but because switching to a newer, smaller agency could make their investors nervous. The potential negative consequence is the moat. The cost of leaving is just too high.
And the final one is the rocket fuel for most of today's tech unicorns.
That's the network effect. American Express is a classic pre-internet example. The more cardholders they have, the more businesses want to accept the card. The more businesses accept the card, the more desirable it is for new users. It creates this self-reinforcing, ever-widening loop that becomes virtually impossible for a newcomer to penetrate.
So bringing all this investor thinking back to the actual pitch deck, what does the entrepreneur have to deliver?
The pitch has to show a clear value proposition, market demand, and critically strong traction and market validation. Investors need tangible proof of demand demand, not just promises. That means showing consistent growth metrics, user engagement data, and customer testimonials that prove people are using and loving the product at scale.
And they've got to have their financials buttoned up. Let's just touch on the two financial concepts investors really look for, ROE and FCF.
Right, they prioritize financial discipline, specifically a high return on equity, ROE, without taking on a ton of debt. ROE just measures how efficiently a company uses shareholder money to generate profits.
And the classic example of a high ROE business is really key to understanding low-risk growth.
Precisely. Look at Visa. Their ROE is often above 30%. Why? Because they facilitate transactions without ever taking on the risk of lending money themselves. It's a capital-light model. They don't need huge factories or inventory. That's why investors see them as fundamentally lower risk and highly profitable compared to, say, an asset-heavy business. They also prioritize strong free cash flow. FCF, that's the cash left over after a business reinvests in itself. FCF is the engine that funds future innovation and returns to shareholders.
That distinction, asset light versus asset heavy, is so key. Okay, to end with a really provocative funding strategy, if you want to make your business attractive, don't chase the money.
The sources suggest a contrarian approach. Make the investment opportunity exclusive. Float the idea of an invitation-only round to a few highly desirable angel investors. This completely reverses the psychology. Instead of you pitching for their money, they're now compelled to pitch their value add to you to get a slice of the deal. It flips the script and gives you incredible leverage.
So we've really covered the entire life cycle blueprint here, from that first spark of an idea all the way to a funded reality.
And the core lesson is that success is rarely linear. It comes from combining genuine, passion-solving real problems with systematic analysis, using tools like SWOT and trend data, and then adding intellectual rigor, understanding what investors are looking for around timing and those competitive moats.
You now have the full playbook, armed with the strategies of top founders and elite angels.
And here's the provocative thought we want to leave you with. The key to spotting the next big thing isn't about following the trend everyone is already talking about. It's about identifying secrets, an important truth about the market that is both correct and widely dismissed or misunderstood by conventional wisdom.
That means the real work begins when you stop looking at what everyone else is building. So we challenge you. Identify one unchallenged assumption in your current industry, something everyone just takes for granted. Then ask yourself, if that assumption were false, what world-changing business would suddenly be possible? That might just